most of you guys, so we're just going to start now. A lot of the time, whenever people, I've been doing this podcasting thing for a while. The first question that I always get in terms of podcasting is ROI, whether or not it's really going to pan out, specifically for business owners or small, entrepreneurs and any kind of idea that you want. The first thing that people ask me about is whether it's worth it for them. So I'm just going to introduce myself fairly quickly. My name is Elsie Escobar. You can find me at YoGeek if you want to follow me along. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I used to be a little bit of a fancy pants Hollywood person back in the day. And so I did that. I did some work in Hollywood for about between 7 to 10 years. And given the fact that there's so much rejection and so much, all of that negative stuff that happens in terms of acting, I needed a place to relax a little bit. And I ended up taking yoga and became a yoga instructor, and that's basically what I do as another part of my career. I've been teaching yoga now for 10 years, so it's been a really great ride. And the fact that I was in the industry and I got into yoga, and then I got really into podcasting because I got an iPod and I really stepped into it. So those two loves, my entertainment love, my performance stuff, and then getting into yoga, and then moving into this technology thing, I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. So I've been podcasting since 2006. I started to put my classes online in the middle of that year. So I've been doing this for a while. I've been in this industry, and I thought it's been like the best. And I sort of took it to the next level. And so now I do more consulting with small business owners or entrepreneurs who really want to get podcasting into their toolbox. They want to kind of supplement it. And at the same time, I work for Libsyn. Libsyn is the biggest and largest podcasting host that there is. So I do a lot of their social media marketing and stuff. I write a lot of the blog posts. I do a lot of one-on-one conversations with a lot of podcasters. And so it's kind of that kind of stuff. I'm sort of like the voice of Libsyn, if you will. So some of the questions, these are actually specific questions that I have received from business owners, entrepreneurs specifically. And when I asked, what do you think about podcasting? What would you want to know about podcasting? And everything always comes out to be about money. Or the bottom line, because especially as a business owner, it's a little bit, if you're like a solopreneur, so to speak, your resources are pretty limited. So all of these things are always a big focus on everything that we do. So, do you guys really know what podcasting is? You can tell it.
I think of it as almost like an on-demand public radio station where you're creating this content, you're putting it out there, and then somebody can listen to it whenever they want. Or they can subscribe, and it's on their schedule.
Yeah. That's a good component. Anybody else have any ideas of a description of what podcasting might be for you? Or that what you understand it to be? No? It's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. It's just that this is one of those things that I really like to clarify a lot of the time. So this is like a definition of it. It's a type of digital episodic media which can be either audio, video, PDF, and even EPUB that is delivered via RSS. Hence, it is subscribable. So you do subscribe to it. But one of the key things is that it's a digital episodic media. So one of the differences that I see a lot of people thinking that it's a podcast is if you have a digital audio file on your website, that's not a podcast, that's an audio file on your site. So you can subscribe to that. You can download it, and it can be a podcast if it's delivered via RSS. So this is just the thing. It's sort of like the noun. You can also use it as a delivery mechanism. So you can have existing content, right? So part of the definition is that this is something that you can do to your existing content so that you deliver it as a podcast. Does that make sense? So you got your already existing audio, already existing video, already existing PDFs, and deliver it as a podcast. So that is part of you being able to podcast. So podcasting for businesses. You can create specific content. Let's say you have your own business and you create a show that is in and of itself different than anything you have already. So it's something extra that you're adding, sort of like the way that you have a newsletter, something like in a blog. Instead of doing just those things, you add podcasting to the mix. It's a whole entity on its own. And you can also package the stuff that you already have, which is what I just alluded to before, and then deliver it as a podcast. So that's another way that you can do this podcasting for business. You can also create a business with the main anchor being a podcast. So instead of, let's say you guys, I'm assuming most of you guys have already businesses, but maybe if you didn't, you could create a business with the anchor being the podcast itself. So that's where everything else comes from. That's like your main place. So you can do it in that respect. The examples that I'll show you have a balance of both. So you'll be able to see how people are implementing this in different ways. Another thing that I would love to touch on is that I did not choose any of these examples as marketing podcasts. I did not choose any podcasting podcasts. I did not choose any, I think one that was like a tech podcast, because I don't want that to be the focus. It's like I wanted to show you stuff that is real life. There are real life examples from people who are doing this stuff. So the first podcast that I have is Fat Burning Man. And his business model, he is an online publishing, and he does online publishing, he's an author, and he's a consultant in the health and fitness industry. Now what Abel does is he is incredibly niche oriented. So his main focus is all on the paleo, primal, evolutionary, and ancestral field. So he is a paleo diet guy, right? That's his basic focus for his podcast has been this. And the basic idea, if you will, of his podcast is that he really just has interviews with some of the top industry people around the paleo field. He's got he's a wonderful voice, and he has a really highly produced podcast, which is something really nice to hear him. It's like it's his own little show, of course. So the direct benefits for podcasting for him is that he built an enormous passionate audience within less than a year, basically. He started podcasting at the beginning of this year. And the paleo industry, when you get really niche-oriented, people just really want to suck up your content. So he started to drive a lot of content fast. He was very consistent. And so he drove the audience pretty quickly to his podcast. He had ebooks that he had already put out, and they helped him get into, skyrocket into Amazon charts and become the #1 bestseller for his books. And a substantial amount of growth in the sales of these books and video trainings and coaching helped him leave his corporate job. So he was doing consulting for a corporate company, and now he's 100% committed to doing that running, which is really wonderful for him. And he's not just doing the podcast. He's got a whole business around it. He's a consult, he writes his ebooks, he's got his marketing stuff going on his website, and this is sort of like his front-facing way, the way that he engages with the majority of his people. Genealogy Gems with Lisa Louise Cook. She was, again, very passionate about genealogy as a whole. She did not really start as a multimedia family history company. She just simply started wanting to reach more people. So she thought she wanted to teach this stuff, right? And started to sort of think about, wow, if I had, let's say this whole place was packed, I would get to you guys, right? But if she started to have these classes online and be able to speak to a lot more people faster, so she sort of saw that. And again, this was a very passionate audience, so people stepped into what she had to teach very quickly. So she created her company, she started to branch out a lot, and one of the things that a lot of people don't really recognize in terms of what podcasting can do for you is that it really develops your voice and it develops your audience. So because you have to be in front of the mic or in front of people a lot of the time, you start to sort of get more comfortable with it. You start to see who your people are, and you develop yourself as a really powerful one person. It established Cook as an industry expert, and so she's because of the fact that she's got this podcast, right? You have a little bit more of a line in to people who are in your field, and you're able to really talk to them and establish her as somebody that you would want to talk with. And she has a passionate and loyal audience receptive to an array of all of her product offerings, which is really nice. She started to develop ebooks, and I think she also has an iPhone app that started to deliver some of this genealogy stuff for people. And she already has, whenever she has a product launch, she's got these people that are going to be listening to all this stuff already, which is very nice. This is perhaps one of my favorite because I am a mama, and I'm a full-time mom, and I have all these different things that belong to me. So I love PJ. So Busy Mom Survival Guide. Now this is so unique. PJ, she had the most well-established company before starting to podcast. Her business is making soap, goat milk soap. It's a family-owned business. She has 8 children. And her husband, they run the company by themselves. They do everything. And this is their life. This is what they believe. This is what they do. This is what they do. And they have a really strong social media offering already. Facebook pages, Twitter, YouTube, whatever you want, all that stuff. And she deliberately chose to start a podcast. And she is choosing now to be the voice of expertise for busy moms. So her podcast doesn't necessarily talk about goat milk at all. Everybody just knows that, and she alludes to it a lot, but it's more about delivering and making the most of her family's health and sharing her insights about being a CEO, running, this company, having 8 kids and how she juggles all of that stuff. So this is incredibly interesting, and it gives a face to the company, so people want to know more. And she's grown so much because of that. Her podcast is very highly produced as well. Audio is so sweet. So what has happened in terms of the benefits of podcasting is that the brand loyalty, it really has driven their connection to them because they're really stepping into who she is. So they really just want you just want to buy soap from her, right? I want to buy soap from her. It's given her greater exposure. And then because of the fact that a lot of people are sharing this content, not because it's goat milk soap, but because it's good stuff. And she's like, oh my gosh, she gave this advice about how to do X, Y, and Z with the kids. You should listen to this. And people get hooked because of that. And she's gotten a lot more customers now. So a lot of the new customers that are coming from there, about 0.2% of each episode's listeners becomes a new customer, which is pretty good. And the fact that it's delivered a lot, so it's constantly in their mind, or in their ears, so to speak, because these are audio, by the way, still. The Dr. David Geyer Show. He is an orthopedic surgeon, and he specializes again on sports medicine. And he has started to delve into being a little bit more front-facing, a little bit more like the Dr. Oz type person for orthopedic surgery. And so what he does is, again, really niche audience. He's reporting on the latest star athlete injuries and offers analysis and insight. So he's got that expertise right off the bat. He just comments on what's happening weekly to star athletes that have injuries, and he just focuses in on that specific thing. He's got people calling him in his show, and they ask him advice. Of course, he has disclaimers so that people don't think, do the thing and stuff. No. But he's got all the different kinds of conversation that happens. And so he's really establishing himself as an expert. And because of that, which is really fantastic, he's gotten a lot of more interviews and a lot of more media appearances because of the fact that he's got his podcast. There's been a huge increase in his traffic before and after the podcast. Although, generally speaking, I would say, this is from experience as well as observing the industry for a while. The majority of your podcast listeners or your podcast subscribers are not going to go to your website. They're just going to take it with them. They will when they want something, or they will when you offer a specific thing, but they don't necessarily just hang out there. But it still drives the traffic, even though that's not, because you get a lot, I would think about less than 10% actually come to your website. Screencasts online. So this is a video podcast. Don McAllister is someone who has built his entire business on his podcast. So he started by doing video tutorials, audio and video tutorials of screencasts of your Mac. He just wanted to let people know how to use the Mac. And he started to do this because he really loved it and wanted to help people. And he was so well received. And again, the quality of his content is just top notch. So people just really wanted to know more. And he realized that time, when he started back when he did, in 2005 is when we started to do this. He realized that there was a possibility of building a business on this. So he went to it 100%, and he started to offer more that freemium model, so to speak. You can take a few of his shows for free in iTunes, and then he's got premium fees depending upon how you want to participate with him. But he's built his entire. This is what he does full time now: screencast online. And he has obviously global distribution because your podcast can be downloaded from anywhere. He is from England, and that's where his home base is. He's reaching all over the world. What's happened in terms of with Don is that he's gotten, because of the podcast, he's established himself as a Mac expert. So he's worked and he has already presented at Macworld, iWorld. So and he's doing a lot of those cruises, the Mac cruises and whatnot. He's being hired by app developers to create screencasts for them because his voice is so well known. So he's really reached this pinnacle from what he's doing. His reputation is also high quality. So you know when Don McAllister does something, you're going to be getting something fantastic. What's been really great about him is the fact that he's still innovating. So he started doing podcasting when podcasting was not cool. He was one of the first people that started to earn a living doing podcasts, which is it's not an easy thing to do. And now he's stepping into the world of apps and into the world of iBooks. So he's taking his content and now he's delivering it in other ways. So it's not just the podcast, and some of it is new, some of it is not, some of it is repurposed. So you can buy his SEO tutors, where are apps for your iPhone, and you immediately buy the beginner section, and he's got all of his videos packed into one beginner thing, and now you can buy that app, even though it's for free in the podcast, but he's packaged it in such a wonderful way. He's doing the same thing for iBooks. He's now packaging these, or not iBooks, but he's got a magazine, a digital magazine that now you can subscribe to via the magazine stuff in the iOS devices. Because again, he is Mac-centric. He's not worrying about serving anybody else but these guys, right? So just the Mac stuff. Polymer Play podcast. These ladies are also video. And they are both craft people and jewelry makers. So they started off by doing little short tutorials about gift ideas and interviews with other artists that were centered around polymer play and other kinds of crafting techniques. So all of these videos lead back to their website. All of their videos lead back to more premium content. And all of their videos lead back to being able to purchase some of the stuff that they already do. What's really great about these ladies is that they also started a while ago. And they used to go to the conferences that were all about crafting and polymer play and started to interview the artisans and all that kind of stuff. And so they put those videos up as well. So they have a mishmash of all kinds of different video tutorials. They do have a pretty strong YouTube presence as well as in iTunes. So, and so does Don. Don as well has a lot of his videos in iTunes as well. In YouTube as well. So there's been a dramatic increase in traffic to their website, and it's really due to iTunes and YouTube. Those are the biggest sources of new customers for them. And again, the worldwide brand awareness. So it's really lovely to have like somebody who's in the in the Midwest who starts something and they're well known in Europe because they're doing the one thing. It's just so nice that they don't have to do so much marketing to get so well known with all these things. 20-minute yoga sessions from Yoga Download. Jamie Kent is created an online yoga studio, and basically, the podcast is exactly what you get, right? It's a 20-minute yoga class, and she delivers these in 3 different ways via podcast. You can get audio classes, you can get video classes, which are basically PowerPoint presentations with the different poses on it, and you can also get them as PDFs. So you get these, and you can download them all for free. And what's lovely about this is that they're short little sessions, right? And you can just basically get whatever you want. What's so amazing about this, at least for her, that she's starting to receive, is that she gets people all the time, emails all the time that they found her through the podcast. Because she has a 20-minute session, but then when you go to the website, you can purchase a 60-minute class, you can purchase a 90-minute class. You have more classes online that you can actually buy. So if you want the full session, you can do it via her via her website. And it's that same thing of offering something for free, getting them in there, and then selling the proper whatever you need. In terms of donations as well, she asks for donations in the podcast to be able to maintain them and sustain them. And it's something very simple. It's never something big. And I think she asked for like just $1. And because of the fact that this is a pretty popular podcast, if she just got $1 from anybody who downloaded, it would be nice. So she said that she makes them pretty, it's nice. It's nice to be able to do that. And she does it in a very wonderful way. Your website engineer. So this is Dustin Hartzler, and he is a WordPress website development company. Basically, it's just him. So he started to dive into the world of website development, and as he started to do that, he started to really do a lot of work in WordPress, and he thought, why not have other people learn the same thing that I'm learning? And in the process, he became and found his voice again as an expert in that field. So basically what he does is he just offers advice. He started off, which is really interesting, he started off thinking that this advice was going to be going to potential people who want websites, right? Somebody who wants a website and how to do it themselves. And his whole model is starting to shift because his audience has now become more developers listening to him, which is really lovely, which is bizarre because now there's more developers are also looking for this kind of stuff. So directly from his podcasting is that now he's got people calling him all the time. He's got people emailing him all the time. He doesn't have to go out to look for work. The work is coming to him. Because of the fact that people know him and know who he is, because they've gotten to know him. So if I want a website and I know this guy, I'm just going to go to that guy instead of searching online for web developers in my area. They'll just want to check out him. Affiliate income. So Hartzler really tries a lot of products, especially that are specific, obviously, to WordPress plugins and all those kinds of services. And he aligns with companies that he believes in, as well as offers, tell them, please come to my website and I'll get money. So he does receive income from affiliate. And he's also built a referral commission. So because he's getting so much work, at this moment he doesn't have the time, obviously, to take all of that stuff. So he's built a referral network and he gets commissions from some of the people that he sends the work from. So he's off getting some money in that respect. And of course, he's also creating product that is not free, that webinars and other things that he's coming into to offer his audience. So after going through all of those, the main things that you need to have in order for your podcast to be successful, or especially if you're just thinking about it, is that podcasting takes time. It takes time. Energy and regular production. So every one of these people that I just shared with you, every single one of them told me that the hardest part for them was making the time to do it and to be consistent. Those are the two main blocks that stop you from it, or that don't give you as much success as you would want it to have to pay off. Another thing that's really important for creating this in business is that you really need to research and you need to plan and you need to listen. So if you have an existing business, this is when you start to ask questions. What do they really want? I mean, there are different things in terms you saw that Dustin offers specific information about website design. PJ from Go Bell Stuff offers parenting advice that has nothing to do with the soap, but there's something that ties it together, that drives it. So you need to look at your own stuff. And planning around it. This is something you need to step back and see the big picture of what you want to do with this podcast, specifically for business. So if you want to do something episodic, you could do something seasonal. Let's say you want to you just do stuff. There's a podcaster who is not necessarily a business, but he only puts out, he's got a podcast that's just for Christmas season. And he's got Christmas stuff that comes out into it. It's just Christmas stories, and it's all incredibly seasonal, and that's what that is. People come to know him for that. So you can have that kind of plan and outlook from the beginning. And you must love it, because if you don't love it, because of the fact that you have to do it consistently, it's going to take a lot of your time. If you don't love to do it, you're not going to continue to do it. You'll have it all, and you'll think this is just the most amazing thing ever, but it's just not. It's not going to be the easiest thing for you to get through. We have a nun's life. I'm giving you this last podcast because these ladies here sort of mirrored to me everything that I just told you in the last slide about researching and listening and planning and all of that fun stuff. A nun's life is actually run by nuns. And I reached out to them to talk to them about their business, even though it's not necessarily their business. They created an internet ministry that reaches out to people that they felt this was a need, and they felt that this was a need for them to just continue to reach out in the faith, where a lot of people were just feeling a little bit, kind of not close to anybody else that they can share their information with. So they consciously chose to reach out in as many ways possible. Part of being a podcaster is that you are stepping out of the comfort zone in a lot of different ways. They just thought, why not get into this medium, right? Let's just do it. The other thing is that was really wonderful about them is that they continued to ask questions of what their audience needed. What do people need? What do they need from us? And they didn't let technology stand in their way. So when they started podcasting, they just started to ask questions. How do I do this? Can somebody help me? And as they stepped into it, they started to receive support from their audience, and their audience has stayed with them as they shifted their technology. So if you think you have to have it all together from the beginning, that's nice, but it's not necessary. So when you start, if you can talk to your audience and let them into your journey as a podcaster, they'll be right there with you. The quality of their content from when they begin to now, they started in 2009, is amazing. They slowly added bits and pieces, a microphone, a digital recorder, little things like that, and they just grew with their audience. It was really, really wonderful. And they did the research. They provided what they needed, the prayer, the connection, and the knowledge. So they don't just have one podcast, they actually have 4, I believe. And so one of them is just a prayer podcast. One of them is just a Ask a Sister, which is a really cool one. I haven't listened to it, but I would like to ask a sister. They realize the importance of marketing. This is something podcasters don't really pay attention to. And podcasters also don't think that they need to market their podcast for whatever reason. It's just the same as everything else. You do have to market it. But what I love about them is that they view marketing as helping people. They view marketing as helping people because you're helping them find your content, because you have something wonderful to offer them. So if you think about it as helping people, it makes it less of a job and a chore, but it's like, I'm just helping you find all the good stuff that I can offer for you. And the other thing is that they cross-promote through all their platforms. These ladies aren't just podcasting. They're ladies, they have their Twitter account, they have their Facebook page, they have their blog posts, they have their Pinterest page, they're doing all this incredible stuff, and they stream live. They do it live. So they have all of these little layers, and they cross-promote all the way around. So whatever and however their audience needs to step into them, they can do it either big with everything, or maybe I just listen to their podcast. Maybe I just listen to their Twitter feed. So before you begin, you need to establish where you are, particularly in these categories here, especially for businesses and for podcasting. It's really hard to measure it. It's very hard because the digital file is out there. How do you know what you got from it, right? So you need to know what your sales are, your website analytics, anything that you can measure. Make sure you have like that point right before you begin so that you can track it as you start to see if it's actually working for you. And you need to establish new tracking systems. So there's nothing out there at this moment that is sort of like all those Twitter things and the Facebook stuff where you can get all of these websites and they'll give you all this data of how many people click what and how to, you don't have that with this. So for podcasting, you've got to get really creative of how you're able to track this stuff. So here are some ideas to have in terms of calls to action within the episodes, within the actual files. Surveys are fantastic. Your audience will tell you what they want to hear all the time. The comments. Start to track how many comments you get anywhere, everywhere. iTunes reviews. This is something that you can start to track, and it's actually very, very important. You can ask your audience to leave you iTunes reviews. This is incredibly important for them, or even ratings, because iTunes really uses that to bring you people to find your podcast more within iTunes. Landing pages and special URLs. This is something that I think is really important, and it's been done by a few marketers who are this career with marketing podcasts. Because people are on the go, they don't have a place to put it. The Internet Business Mastery is one of my favorite podcasts. And what they do is they have like a sign up for their newsletter, and instead of saying sign up for my newsletter, they say go to freevideogift.com and sign up to get your free video tutorial on whatever they focus on internet business, of course. So that's really trackable, and people can come and step into it. And then share on social media, of course. You share your stuff on social media. I do bit.ly links, or pretty links for my episodes, and I see where it tracks and how it moves through, because in case you also want to do any kind of sponsorship, or you want to go out to anybody to see if they want to advertise with you, you need to be able to present something. And a lot of the time, people want to know download numbers, but to be honest, download numbers are great, but action is a lot more important. Because you can have hundreds and thousands of listeners that don't ever engage with you, and then you can have a core group of 500 people who are constantly doing everything you ask. So you've got a lot more power than somebody that's got that many downloads out there. So can your business benefit from podcasting? Absolutely it can. You've got a worldwide reach. It's a straight shot to your client and your customer. You're in their ears, usually for audio. And video as well, you can carry it with you, particularly smaller ones. It's a great way to enhance your brand. And people recognize you as an expert very, very quickly, just because you have a podcast. Branching off into other revenue models is a fantastic way to do it. You can repurpose the content, just like you're talking about. There's so many wonderful things that you can do with it. So, you need to start podcasting right now. You can go to libsyn.com/welcome, and you'll find a really wonderful little hello here from us to you, and you can find all the things that we have to offer. We also have a little thing in there that you can put in your information if you want to sort of talk one-on-one with one of us, or you have any other questions. If you want to get a little flyer, you can do it physically here, which I have right at the top, or you can just go to bit.ly.com/podcastinginfo, and you can just download the flyer there. That way, you can do it that way. And if you want to sign up right away, you can sign up using PCPDH7 until November 15th, and you get a free month of our hosting, which is probably more than a month because of the way the cycle works. So you won't get charged until December if you want to go ahead and try that. If you want to contact me directly, my email, elsie@libsyn.com, my website, yogi.me, and I am at yogi if you want to follow me. So, does anybody have any questions for me today?
Well, you talked about research, so where all should people, can you talk more about research and what all research one should do before deciding
being able, who your target audience is, what kind of a show you want to be putting out there. So one of the first things that I do whenever I'm helping somebody try to find what their voice is I step first into what's already out there, right? So I go into iTunes and I search for whatever keywords I'm interested in. I look specifically for the podcasting things that are being offered, and I really dive into their content. I look at artwork, names of their podcast, what kind of offerings they have in their descriptions, in their podcast descriptions. I go to their websites, what are they offering, and I listen. Because you'll get ideas from it, and at the same time, you'll see, oh, this isn't being served at the moment, right? That's something that opens it up for you. Never be dissuaded if you see a zillion podcasts doing what you're doing, because nobody can do it the way you can, and that's the whole point. People will find you, and if they align with you, they'll align with you and they'll continue listening. They really, podcast audiences are incredibly loyal. So they're not easily dissuaded. Where you're on a website, you can quickly go back and forth, right? You can scan stuff. Whenever you tune into somebody, you'll tune into them and you just won't switch. So, yeah.
But on the other hand, people might add, like if somebody's interested in yoga, they might listen to 3 yoga podcasts, right? So I guess it's that part of people have thought oh, Starbucks, if there's a Starbucks on the corner, that could be a bad thing, but if anything, it can also drive a coffee drinking culture.
Yep.
So
there's a lot of, that's one thing that you can do as well at the beginning, is to start to participate with the audiences that are doing what you're doing. So one of the things that I love is I really am a huge podcast listener. It's like, I really love podcasts. And so I always step into them first. I ask questions, I try to send feedback, not because I want to, not for any other reason other than the fact that I really like them. And the second thing is that I want to hear from them. And they can get really excited. Podcasters love to get content. They love to get stuff. You inspire them. So if you're interested in a specific niche, send them stuff. Ask them for things. Ask them questions. Step into them. Because they will more than likely answer you back, and they will really, really support you if you decide to get into it. So the podcasting community is very supportive. And we really love to help one another find these jobs, find this, for all of us to get the medium out in this fashion. It's very nice. Anybody else? Yes.
Cool technical ways. Using Libsyn and sending those feeds out to different places. Are there plugins or things that complement that aid in maybe keeping on your WordPress?
That's a really great Rob, he told me that I needed to mention some of this stuff. And I forgot. Yes, we do. We spit it out to different places. So we do have support for Twitter. You can immediately Twitter your stuff out. You can immediately put it onto Facebook pages. And we have a plugin, not a plugin, but we have something called Unpublish that goes straight into your WordPress if you have a WordPress setup. And it immediately publishes out for you in that respect. Our people there are 2 different kinds of people who use our service, that I see. There's some of them that step 100% into what we have to offer, meaning they take us up on everything. We have the template there. You could just basically stuff with us and you don't have to do anything else. And then there's people who use us for media hosting only. So they basically put all of their stuff on our website, and then they have their own stuff. They have their own WordPress, their own website set up. They have their own feed set up. Generally speaking, before it was done via FeedBurner, or you could do it via a category inside of your blog or whatever, and then you use that. So you can use us fully, or you can use us the way that you want to use it, which is really great. A lot of people tend to do that as well. It's about 50-50 right now to be able to do both. Anybody else? I know. All right. Okay. Thank you, guys.